Hey there, I'm Sean Collins. I'm the esports reporter with the Dallas Morning News covering OpTic Texas and the Dallas Fuel. And I just wanted to take this time to talk a little bit about the OpTic Texas's first week of scrims. They've only had a couple blocks in, but I figured it was still worth talking about just as kind of like the true beginning of the Call of Duty League preseason. I got to speak with Dashy and Rambo earlier this week just about their whole process, what their first scrims were like, and what they learned about themselves. Before I get straight into all of it, I wanted to do the usual, and if you're interested in making sure you're keeping up with all of the content that I put out with the Dallas Morning News about these teams, you can subscribe here at the Dallas Morning News. It's super cheap for the first 8 weeks. It's only 99 cents, I believe. So, also, if you need to, you can use code Sean C. That's all caps SEANC, and that should help out as well. I believe that makes the first month free. Um, and this is where all my videos go. For the Dallas Morning News Esports, it's just DMN Esports. I even typed it up there. You can subscribe right here. You can see that I had my first OpTic Texas one down here, and I've done some other featurey type items. But let's just get straight into it. So, OpTic had several scrims this week. They had 2 blocks, and then they played against several pro teams, including the New York Subliners, Atlanta FaZe, Minnesota Rocker, then several other challengers teams, including, I believe, Methods teams. So they had pretty solid results in those blocks. I think that they may have struggled against FaZe in one of those blocks record-wise, but they still had really tightly contested maps, and they did defeat FaZe in several of the hardpoint maps. They mostly spawned into hardpoint maps. I didn't know this personally, so maybe it'll be more information for you guys as well. But a lot of the times, whenever they're doing these tournaments at the beginning of a game, like they are with Vanguard, they're doing search and destroy tournaments just because that can be easier to play when you're not with your full squad. And hardpoint can be a little bit more frustrating to play if you're not playing with your full-on CDL squad, especially if you guys don't know the spawns yet or the rotations. So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of hardpoint scrims right now. It's hard to kind of put through strategy in your first couple scrims, right? You know, they do know these maps better than, the casual players, but they don't know it to the degree if they would if they had been practicing it all, season long, if they were, 6 months into scrims or something like that. It's just been a couple weeks. So I kind of asked Rambo about that, and he gave good detail, and so did Dashy. And here's a quote that I have from Rambo. He said, "I feel like I've driven most of the teams I've been on to being really strong fundamentally. It seems like Brandon and Seth bring a skill element, not that we didn't necessarily have it last year." He's talking about the Dallas Empire, and he finished and said, but it kind of feels like this completes Shotzi and Illy's strength. So it seems like they're honing in on the raw talent that this team has, and they definitely do have a lot of raw talent. I'd say maybe the only other team that shares the same, actual, kind of skill is probably Atlanta FaZe. Maybe the New York Subliners as well. I know Neptune and Hydra make that team pretty good with Clayster and Crim 6. But yeah, that's kind of just what I got as well. This article that I wrote yesterday, it does more detail, and there's different details in this story that I'm giving you right here. So make sure to still check it out. But I just wanted to give a little bit more context for it. Something that Rambo also talked about is it gave him a good idea of how he's going to be working with Cinder. Rambo didn't have an assistant or any other buddy on the coaching staff last year. It was kind of just like him, and I know Fellow would help out with like search and destroy especially, and they kind of had a moving roster, so it was kind of difficult for them to be grounded and catch any sort of momentum. It was very much a moving all the time sort of thing. They never really had a true roster. So this season should be a little bit easier for them as a starting point. Another thing that Rambo told me that he was really focusing on was, because this is OpTic, especially for like Shotzi and Illy, he's going to try and block out other noise, whether it's positive enforcement or negative criticism. He thinks that that stuff needs to not matter to these players. They need to just be focused on their craft and getting better, and sometimes it can be hard to do that with all the noise, especially since OpTic is I would say easily the largest fan base in Call of Duty, at least. Another thing is that these guys like this game. I know that's something that's going around a lot, is that a lot of the pros or even challengers guys have not been too impressed with some of the details of the game. Obviously, the S&D bomb glitch was pretty bad, though I think that's patched up. I know that Bloom isn't popular in some of these destructible walls on maps like Decoy, but I think that these guys on OpTic Texas do like this game. Here's why that's important. It seems a little bit silly and obvious, but Dashy did say that was important. He said it can affect your playing time for whatever reason. Maybe you just don't have as much fun, or you aren't as good on the game, or you don't put in as many hours. But with us, it's none of that. We enjoy each other, enjoy playing with each other, enjoy playing the game, and that's going to make it a lot easier to grind the game. So again, we're going to learn a little bit more about, what kinds of strategies teams are looking into when it comes to some of these maps and game modes, but we're just not quite there yet. But that doesn't mean that, the scrimmages aren't still, worth diving into, and that's what I wanted to do with this.